Good morning and welcome to the very first day of the all new online only CES 2021. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Depending on where you are, it's either very late or very early, like it is for us here in New York. I am senior mobile editor Chris Velasco, and to kick off the show right with me this morning is Engadget Reviews editor Sherlyn Lowe. Sherlyn, how's it going?
It is early in the morning here in New York, but I bet it's the perfect time for our friends in Asia. So thank you so much for joining us, whatever
Yes,
time zone
what's
you're
up,
in.
Asia crew? Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So, Sherlyn, this is, look, the weirdest CES we've ever had to cover, not least of which because you're in your apartment and I'm in my basement, and neither of us are in Las Vegas having a particularly weird or fun time. How's everything
hmm
kind of going for you so far?
My biggest thing so far is that for the viewer who has experienced previous CESs from home, online only for the last few years, right? For the first time ever, their experience is not going to be that much different from us, right? Because we're usually on the ground. It's very different. It's a very harried, frenzied experience for us on the ground. And the viewer kind of gets to watch from afar. Now we're kind of in that same place as people who might not have the chance to visit CES for themselves. And I think for them, I want to make this experience feel more intimate and more close than ever. I think we're able to speak more directly with you, even from our own homes as we watch from afar as well. How about you, V? What's this so weird, super weird digital CES been like for you?
I mean, in the run up to the event, I mean, we're always kind of doing the same thing, right? We're always heads down, we're taking meetings, we're writing news, we're making sure the news goes up on time. That much hasn't changed. What I feel like I've really kind of missed going into this CES is just sort of like the little rituals that kind of prep me for a day.
hmm
So, and I was going to ask you about this, but, it's day one of CES. This is, if we were in Vegas, not the first day, we would have been on the ground hustling. We'd be at any
yes.
number of events kind of gearing up for today. But
Yes.
I usually like to prep in the morning, just like belting out a Broadway song, having like three or four
Oh,
cups of coffee, because we're starting so much earlier than we would had we done this live in Vegas, which is again not possible this year. I'd be looking
yeah.
at it's a slightly different routine, but I feel like the energy is
Yeah.
good, and I think you've got a really great point there. We do now get to experience CES the way most people get to experience CES, and I think that'll bring us all a little bit closer together in the way that we kind of work through the show. And speaking
hmm
of that, we've got a lot going on this week, a lot going on today, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact. Sherlyn, run us through really quickly kind of what we can expect to
Yes.
see in the day to come.
So, for you guys watching from home, you don't have to go to all kinds of different sources to get your full CES experience. You'll have it right here if you just keep it locked to the Engadget YouTube channel or Engadget.com, where we're also streaming this video live to you well, not 24/7, but all day from January 11th to January 13th. So, for today, we've got big keynotes, right? This is the press day. We've got all of the big companies like LG, Samsung, Mercedes Benz. They've got keynotes today from 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and all the way through later in the day. We've got also Sony at about 4 p.m. Or 5 p.m. Eastern later today. We have the whole schedule for our virtual stage on Engadget.com. You can go check it out over there and, make a calendar invite for yourself if there's something you're particularly interested in. But it's not just the big company keynotes. We at Engadget have also prepared a special selection of panels from our topic experts for you. So we've got Chris Shaw from our Upscaled Web series talking all about chips and RISC-V and the future of computing. That's all very exciting for those people interested in those topics. And then we've got Chris. I think you have some panels for this show all together too, right? What are you excited about?
So I've got a couple lined up. Nothing I really want to give away right now because at least one of
That's
them,
why I didn't
just
want
like
to.
one of these panels came together completely last minute. I literally slid into a guy's DMs. And I think it's going to work out really, really well. So stay tuned for that. Just to give everyone at home a quick sense of what's happening this morning, we'll be kind of hanging out here, sort of working through our opening remarks until about 8 a.m. Eastern. At that point, we'll kick it
Yep.
to the LG live streamed press conference. We're going to run that sort of uninterrupted, after which senior editor Devindra Hardawar and I will be around to sort of dissect the announcements, put them in a larger context. That is going to go from 8:30 to 9 a.m. Eastern, at which point we're moving directly into the Samsung press conference, the theme of which is, I believe, Samsung are exploring the concept of a new normal. Obviously, the events of the last year have made life quite unconventional for most of us, to say the
Yes.
absolute least. So I'm curious to see what Samsung says about sort of the new normal and how its vision to the home and to AI and to its devices sort of feed into that vision. Following that, at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Sherlyn and I will be back here to talk about Samsung's announcements, and then we have, I believe, about a half hour of sort of hands-on time. So we were fortunate enough to very safely, I have to stress, very safely went to a Samsung space to check out some of Samsung's new products, the new TVs, which they've already kind of discussed to some extent. So we'll be kind of running through our experience with those things. And then at 10:30, Devindra Hardawar, can't keep that guy down. He's coming back with a panel with Samsung to talk about their new announcements and just sort of where Samsung goes from here. So that's just the morning. We've got two major press conferences. I should point out after Samsung is Mercedes-Benz. So right up until noon, we've got big announcement after big announcement after big announcement. So if you've got time this morning, I strongly encourage you to come join us as we sort of unpack the news and put things in a greater context for you, because that's just what we like doing around here.
Yes, and then speaking of some of those panels I brought up, I myself am far more than happy to give away what I've got going on. I have a panel on what laptops will look like in 2021 and beyond with companies like Lenovo and HP. Now, CES is a big show for laptops every year because the companies announce their new, their new upgrades with the latest Intel or AMD processors. And this is also a chip show. So taking all of that into account, we've also got companies making really interesting looking devices. So I really wanted to talk to these two companies, to me, were innovating right on the front of laptops, and then have them tell us what they think laptops will be like in 2021. And it's not just about 5G, it's about the quirky, the weird stuff. So I want to have y'all stay tuned for that. But it's not just about the media day, right? There's also Tuesday and Wednesday. So we've got all kinds of content planned, and it will culminate in the Best of CES Awards. The Engadget will, for the 8th year in a row, judge the official Best of CES Awards. So us editors will be keeping a close eye on what is being announced throughout the show in various categories. For example, I'm looking at the best wearables and course, the best PCs. So, shout us out on Twitter, by the way, if you have anything that caught your eye that you think we should really take a closer look at, or, if companies haven't already nominated themselves, feel free to give me a tip. But also, you'll have a say in the People's Choice Awards, which we'll be allowing the public to vote on come Tuesday, January 12th. So make sure you keep an eye out on Engadget.com for that.
That is such a great point. Sherlyn and I and the rest of the staff here at Engadget, we've been really hitting the press releases. We've been talking to companies. We've seen and heard about a lot already, but we haven't seen and heard about everything. So if there's something that you discover while on your virtual travails at virtual CES that you think is interesting and maybe deserves a Best of CES award, please let us know. You can tweet at Sherlyn and I. My Twitter handle is at Chris Velasco. Sherlyn, where can people find you?
Mine's at Sherlynnlow, CHERLYNNLOW. That's on Twitter. Make sure you let us know, because sometimes we try our best, but sometimes we miss the smaller stuff, the places that don't have PR companies to reach out to us. But make sure you take a look at the Best of CES criteria that's already on Engadget.com. They do need to be an official CES exhibitor. And then also take a look at the categories we've got. There's a lot. There's the best sustainable technology. There's best for gaming, all kinds of stuff, best accessibility tech. So I just feel like you're going to get the most comprehensive look, because we've got people assigned to all of those awards categories, paying close attention to all of those. If you want even more detail than what this video show might be able to provide, you can go to Engadget.com, where we'll have articles all the time on all of the news that is breaking out of CES 2021. Our poor team has been so hard at work. I just want to shout out our hardworking team members who are not on the stage with us right now, but really should be taking a bow, because they've just really been putting in so much hard work over the last week.
Absolutely. Yeah, CES is always a struggle, to say the least. Just because, as a media company, as a team, you want to put out the best, most thorough coverage possible. And every year we go absolutely wild on the show floor trying to give you guys exactly that. But now that we're all at home and we're not all seeing each other, you're right. It is hugely important to shout out and give huge thanks to our tremendous team, both on the editorial side and on the video side, helping us bring you our live coverage of CES 2021.
Absolutely.
We couldn't have done it without these amazing people, and I'm so grateful to be working with all of them.
I just want to say too, like the stage that we're on right now, we got a real glow up.
Oh yeah, shout out to the stage, y'all.
This will be the scene for our virtual stage. Take a look around. I mean, there's not that much to so-called explore, but hopefully this will help better present the information that we want to give to you guys. You can pay closer attention to the details that you need. And, there will be some little, tidbits here and there, I think, in the background if you spot. But make sure to tell us how you feel about our new stage environment. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm in CES. Or in Las Vegas Convention Center without actually being there. I almost feel, like I said before, I almost feel the static from the carpet already, this faux digital carpet.
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. I will say, I do appreciate having, I don't know if we could look out the quote unquote window, but you might have seen it on the sort of swoop in to introduce us. There's sort of a faux desert out there, and you do not know how badly I wish I could walk out into that faux desert and just sort of plop on the ground and be with the universe. But instead I'm here with you, and that's also a great thing. Sherlyn, we've I think we've run through a lot of what we needed to get through. So I want to circle back to a point I made earlier about CES rituals, right? Everyone who's covered the show more than once has a sense of what has to happen in the sort of morning before things really kick off in earnest. What is your CES ritual? What are you doing before the show gets going?
I am, in an effort to not panic, usually I have 7 spreadsheets, one of which is my show floor schedule. So I'll have maybe a week and a half around, CES show days official will be right in the middle. And then the first 2 days will be like embargoes, pre-briefings. And then the actual show floor days are packed with, hands-on appointments and companies that I might not have seen otherwise. So it is usually very full, but it's been fully replaced this year with this, with a schedule for my virtual stage hits. And then other than that, I'm just at home. I'm just not trying to rush through a million different appointments. And I don't know that I miss it. And I don't know. I feel like maybe this gives me the calm that I'm getting from being in one place, might help me be able to think more broadly about what's going on at CES 2021. What are the big trends? What are the big topics? I'll be able to think all the time about it instead of just waiting till the last day to reflect and see what I've seen.
No, that's a really great point, right?
Yours? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that I am very much a trade show person. I'm very much a field person. So the more time I can spend sort of like jostling through crowds and rushing to meetings and feeling like I'm getting something done, like the physicality of that is actually very important to me. I really do enjoy that. So not having that this year is definitely putting me in a bit of a different headspace. But to your point, I think it's really important to note that, because we don't have to fight through crowds and wave people off with tripods because we have to get to a booth at this time or else we don't get to shoot whatever we're going to shoot or whatever it is. Because we have to spend less energy worrying about the logistics of being at a place covering things, we do get more time and more brain power freed up effectively to just think about how all of these things fit together, how important they are, and how important they will continue to be as the year progresses.
I will say, though, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, right? With being at home versus being on the show floor itself. For example, I'm going to eat a lot better. For one, I think I'll be taking better care of myself. I will be sticking to a sleep schedule instead of going out at night and having dinners with my coworkers. But that's the other thing is you and I have both said many times now that we're obviously going to miss the camaraderie of being with our teammates, but also with our friends from the industry. We're friends with other publications too. And it'll be nice to see people we don't usually see here in New York. We'll be able to catch up with friends from, say, the West Coast or in Arizona, Phoenix, where Jess Condit is from. The other thing I'm going to miss too is seeing these companies' products in person. There's something about really being able to check something out and being moved by maybe a founder's story that doesn't translate quite so well on email and maybe perhaps not over Zoom even. And I think that's one of the things I will miss. I feel like I get a better sense of the excitement for a product, the authenticity of a person telling me the story about the product at the show floor itself. And that's one of the things that perhaps that's maybe why CES will never go away, even if it did shift to a virtual version this year. I think if we think about CES 2022 for a second, are you excited or are you hopeful at all that we might be able to have an in-person CES 2022, or is it too early to say?
I mean, like I said, I'm a field person. I'm an events person. So
Yes.
I am hoping against hope with every fiber of my now considerable being that we do get to meet with each other again in Las Vegas or wherever see it. Like, it doesn't have to be Vegas, guys. Like,
Sure,
take a
yeah.
look at a map. Like it used summer CES, I believe, used to be in Chicago up until the mid '90s or so. So clearly, there's been some flexibility in where you could do this. But point is, I'm hoping against hope we get to reunite not just us, obviously, but also our tremendous crew. I love our UK team, who we so rarely
Lord,
get to
yes.
see, and they're amazing people. As you said, everyone on the West Coast, getting everyone together again would be a real blast. But I mean, more importantly, from a coverage perspective, you raise a really great point. There's nothing like the sort of immediate reaction and sort of gratification you get and validation, I think, as well, when you sort of go up to a booth or meet a startup in Eureka Park and you see, something in person that might not have made for a particularly great pitch. Maybe the person writing it was like just sort of okay or didn't have a great day, or for whatever reason it didn't inspire much in you. But then you go see it and you see the founders in action, you see the reaction that people are sort of giving these people for their work. It gives you sort of a lot of signals to sort of inform the way you look at things. It's just not really available when you're taking Zoom calls. So, I mean, for a lot of reasons, I really hope that CES goes physical again. I do believe that will happen again, hopefully next year, but if not, the year after that. But yeah, I would love to just get everyone back in a trailer again with some beers and a lot of frenzied writing.
And karaoke. That's one of the things I miss the most is trailer karaoke. I love blasting the music and annoying everyone in the trailer. Also pranks.
Go ahead. Yeah,
pranks on the team.
So we have about 13 minutes before we kick it over to the LG press conference, which gives us ample time to discuss Shrilin's terrible prank. This is the one reason why I would be happy to not be in a trailer with you specifically again.
Wow.
And one of our senior editors, I believe, was it Robbie?
Yeah, it was Roberto Baldwin before he left Engadget. And him and I teamed up to, every year we ask each other, what should our prank on the team be at CES this year? And the one year we effectively pulled one off was 2019, or was it 2020? 2020, I think. Yeah, where we pretended, we made a gizmo and that would play a cat sound, mewing sound of a cat every few minutes or so, and then he stuck it on the door inside the trailer, on one of the doors inside the trailer, and it drove people insane to think that there was a poor cat stuck in the trailer somewhere. And so one afternoon I was walking back to the trailer and the entire team it's just crawling around on their hands and knees in the parking lot of the convention center looking under our trailer for this missing cat. And me and Robbie were like, what have we done? But this is kind of fun.
It was terrible. I know myself, or at least one other person, Brett Putman, one of our sort of freelance video editors, we were just like crawling on the floor, looking for vents and ducts and open spaces because cats obviously very flexible, can fit in a lot of places. We just I think at one point Brett went under the trailer to look up underneath it and see if a cat. So kudos to you. If your intent was to thoroughly mess with our heads, you did a tremendous job, but I also hate you forever.
Thankfully, no real cats were harmed and no fake cats were even harmed in this prank.
Okay in our book, they were all fine. They just really gaslit us in a really ultimately funny way. But
yes. it was ultimately fun reveal, but it was also fun to see Engadget editors get, their hearts are in the right place, and they were spotting cats all over Vegas afterwards that they were taking pictures and sending to the team and saying, "We found the cat," when there was an actual fact no cat. But Engadget editors clearly have a good heart, and me and Robbie are happy that our prank proved that people were good and had consciences.
You have
Other than
certainly found
pranks,
the
though, I
silver
will
lining
say
situation.
the silver lining. Other than pranks, though, I will say one of the things I miss about CES is just the booth experiences. Walking into Samsung's booth, or LG's actually might be one of my favorites every year, because they just really go all out and line all the walls with these TVs that make you feel as if you're in a canyon and stuff like that. And it's like the tech lovers version of Disneyland sometimes. So do you feel like the same way, V?
No, for sure. It's easy for us to take it for granted, right? Because in a
Yeah.
more normal year, when we're going to events, God, every couple of weeks, it seems like there's
Right.
always some new spectacle to be enthralled by. Like going to a Samsung press conference, for example, sort of like the one we're going to see today. You would see, an entire like basketball court like covered with screens and stuff. Like really ostentatious stuff. And obviously these are ways for companies to flex what they're working on, but also just like very interesting experiences in and of themselves. So there's definitely, with a lack of physicality for this CES, there's definitely a dimension of that missing. But I think that also maybe just gives us something to look forward to for next time.
For sure. I would love for our viewers to let us know over Twitter, or maybe if you're on the YouTube chat, or leave a comment. Tell us what it is you'd like to see from a virtual CES, because since there isn't a physical one, what can companies do to really reel you in and keep you interested? Other than interesting product announcements, what would make the experience more convention-like for you? Maybe it's a VR experience. Maybe maybe we really need to step up our efforts on the VR front, or is something else we haven't thought about? Let us know. I'm on Twitter at Sherlyn Lowe. Chris, you're also on Twitter, aren't you?
Yep, I am at Chris Velasco. And since we just mentioned YouTube, Sherlyn and I mean, whenever we get to do streams, and this is something that I like to think pretty good at generally, we love sort of watching the chat on YouTube. So I've just jumped over into the chat. Shouts out to everybody. People are enthralled by the cat stuff. Some people are asking if we're the same as CNET. We're definitely not the same as CNET. I like to think much cooler, and we're based in New York, Sherlyn and I. Well, New York-ish in her case, as opposed to San Francisco. So I'm just, you're very proud of the fact that you're a Jersey person. And as a former and lifelong Jersey person, I'm there for you. I respect that. But suffice it to say, you're not really a New Yorker right now.
Okay, I get it.
Thank you. So we'll be keeping an eye on the chat. We do have about 8 minutes to go until we kick it over to the first big press conference of the day. That is going to be LG. So if you have anything that you'd like to talk about or let us know about, we're monitoring our Twitter and the chat here on YouTube. So yeah, we'd love to hear what you think, because frankly, we've been talking for a while, and it'd be great to get someone else's thoughts into the mix.
I mean, I think this is the whole point of doing a virtual show, this CES in particular, is to, like I said, interact with you guys, feel like this is a show we're all watching together instead of having two versions of this show. On the show floor at CES, a real CES or an in-person CES, I wouldn't have really much time to check my Twitter or look at my socials. And now I'm just kind of like, it's as if I'm watching the season premiere of a show that I really love, and I have to live tweet it, and I have to watch it with friends and all of social media. This is sort of, I think, the same experience, and I would love for everyone to enjoy it together. I mean, of course, some of us have been spoiled ahead of time, right? And that's part of the reason we're still, we're still here to offer commentary, because we had a bit more time to digest some of this information. Some of the companies have been kind enough to brief us ahead of time on what their announcements might be, but that's not all the companies, right? And so for some of the news, we'll be reacting the same instant you are, and I think that will be a lot of fun. I don't know, V, is that for you the same? Like, it's fun, or is it like horrifying?
I mean, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. But I do enjoy the idea, and we've touched on this theme many times in the first 25 minutes of this conversation. That like we both really appreciate the fact that we do kind of get the same CES experience as everybody else. But I to put it a more finer point on it, if you and I were if this was a live show and you and I were doing the opening remarks at CES in Las Vegas, we'd be up on a stage. We wouldn't be around anybody. It would be the two of us like on a couch. And just sort of both digitally and physically removed from the goings on in a way. But now that we're here doing this, yes, we're not in the same place. Yes, we're not going to be, in the same place for quite some time, but we're still kind of at it. I think I personally feel more connected to our audience, and I'm sure you do as well. So we're losing some stuff in the transition to a virtual CES, but I think arguably we do gain even more.
I think so. And I think just to remind people who might have just joined us, because it's getting to a more reasonable time of day in New York, we are still hoping that you will at least keep it locked on Engadget.com. You can get a full CES experience just by staying here. We'll be bringing you all the highlights on our virtual stage show, but also make sure to go to Engadget.com, especially on Tuesday, January 12th. If you have something that you think needs to be a Best of CES award winner, remember Engadget is for the 8th year in a row judging the official Best of CES awards. So if there's something you saw in the news that caught your eye that you thought this will make a difference in the world, send in a nomination, send us a tip on Twitter so it will get our attention. And then come Tuesday, January 12th, if you go to Engadget.com, we will be opening up the voting to the public for the People's Choice Award. So you have a say in what gets an award, and that might make all the difference in whether a company gets recognition for the rest of the year or not. And as we said, CES usually sets the stage for the rest of the year, right? In terms of technology, this is where we see all the trends that are going to trickle out over the rest of the year. Usually it's a lot of TVs and, all the buzzwords will start getting thrown out here. But there's also a lot of car tech. There's also a lot of smart home tech, wearables, pet tech, beauty tech. There's just so much to see at CES 2021. V, what are you most excited about that's not one of the big topics?
I got to tell you, so part of my purview at Engadget during CES is obviously having some of Best of CES. My categories tend to be Best Mobile Product, which is very much within my wheelhouse, and Best Startup, which I used to cover very thoroughly in a past life and still kind of keep tabs on. And the process of now kind of getting to know young companies, startups, in a way that is in some ways the only thing that's available, is different than it used to be, but it's no less gratifying, right? Especially because CES, maybe not a lot of people are aware of this because it's so defined by the big events. CES has a huge and thriving startup culture attached to it. And getting to know these people, getting to know their work, getting to know what problems they feel need fixing is always kind of a meaningful approach for me. And getting to experience that again in some way in 2021 has been really gratifying too. So that's been great.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the thing I feel the most, the worst for is the companies that would normally, save up for a long time to book a small little booth at CES at Sands, maybe where it's a startup area, and they get all this exposure from that, and the returns on that sort of investment is huge for them. But this year, I feel like maybe less so. Maybe this year they need to do the traditional hire a really good PR firm and blast out marketing on their behalf sort of move that a lot more seasoned companies are. So there's much more noise for them to cut through, as opposed to being at Startup Alley, where reporters like yourself, Chris, would go to check out everything that they've got to show, and that's how they catch your eye. But we'll see. Hopefully, we'll be able to still be interacting with these companies on some level. We've got 2 minutes, like you've been reminding everyone, to the start of LG's keynote, which is when we'll switch this feed over to that. V, any closing thoughts you wanted to share with our audience?
No, I think we've rambled at people for quite enough time.
Yeah, we have.
But I do want to say a really heartfelt thank you to everyone who has joined us so far this morning. I'm looking at YouTube right now. We've got like 400 people. I don't know why you're here with us, but I'm so grateful that you are. I hope you're enjoying me and Sherlyn just hanging out as we usually do. But yes, 2 minutes to go until the LG press conference. Quick reminder, LG press conference 8 to 8:30. Following that, myself and senior editor Devindra Hardawar will be walking through the announcements, putting them in greater context. That's between between 8:30 and 9 a.m. Eastern is when Samsung's press conference starts. So there's going to be, and that's, again, just like the tip of the iceberg for the day. Mercedes-Benz is after Samsung. We've got a packed afternoon full of live events and panels. So stay tuned for a whole lot more. It's going to be a big show, everyone.
And don't forget to come back tomorrow and the day after from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll have all kinds of programming for you, including more of the panels that we talked about. I'm personally really excited to talk about accessibility and tech on Tuesday, so make sure to come back for that. Just about a minute to go till LG takes over. So I just want to say, keep sending us your thoughts, and we've loved hanging out with you. Tell us what you want to see more of. What can we do to better help you engage with CES 2021 and Engadget this year? We would love to know, because we can't think of everything, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. If you're out there watching us, if you're an avid Engadget reader, or even if you just discovered us for the first time this show, we'd love to know what you think about our coverage, what we could be doing better, what you'd like to see more of a focus on. All of that feedback is so crucial to us doing our jobs well, and we would love to learn more about what you think.
So I think we'll be kicking it over to LG in a little bit. So once again, thank you. Keep it locked to Engadget. And this has been fun welcoming you to the show.